He's going to be on in a half hour to defend himself.
He will be here.
And by the way, Steve, for the record, Steve was the one who read the IRS story. Okay, I'm just saying.
Oh, for
I'm just saying,
purposes?
Sometimes they watch, and they might be wondering who's reading the IRS. You don't care, do you?
I say, what story?
They hang on believe me, Washington's hanging on every word. And there's a new poll out this morning it's a jaw dropper. The Economist and YouGov.com essentially reran the last election. It was a rematch with the president versus Mitt Romney. And according to the results, if the election were held today, Mitt Romney would actually beat Barack Obama. Mitt Romney would get 55 million votes, Barack Obama 52 million votes. As for the people who have voted for the president, they're having second thoughts.
Right. This accounts for 71% of Obama voters. Look at this. It says 55 Democrats regret voting for his re-election. And then out of the poll, 80% of whites said, when asked, that they did regret voting for President Obama. And then in terms of African Americans, 39% regretted it. Hispanics, 100% of Hispanic voters polled here regretted their vote.
100% of the Hispanics that were polled regretted voting for president of the United States.
But the one thing to keep in mind is, too, Mitt Romney's almost like the First Lady. He's somebody out there, but he hasn't had to really make a decision for a year and a half, except to okay that movie.
But what it shows is that people are upset with the direction of the country.
Sure.
It also shows that Barack Obama, the voters have moved on, and he's already a very early lame duck. In the same poll, 84% of women said, yes, do you regret voting for Barack Obama? 61% of men. Here's another one that's amazing. 55% of the Democrats, 55% of the Democrats said, yes, we regret voting for him. And 71% of independents who did vote for him said they regretted. And of course, it is the independents who put people in the White House. And for a majority number like that, that's not
sure, and especially women, too. The focus on women in this next election, as elections prior to, are always a focus in terms of getting their vote.
And one woman in particular, Hillary Clinton, 50% favorable rating, again, because she has not had to make a decision for a year. She can sit back, and people go, wow, she might have been a better idea, a better choice. That'll all change when she starts to run. People start examining the record, as we're already starting to see.
Yep.
Well, the Washington Examiner's chief congressional correspondent, Susan Fracchio, she actually is one woman who might be explaining why these numbers are indicating a wanting for do-over. Listen to this.
People are very visceral about this kind of reaction to the president. They're not, going through their checklist to see if he kept those promises. They're saying, am I better off than I was years ago before he took office? And a lot of people, that's not the case. The economy is still growing very slowly. Job hiring is very weak. Housing starts are not that great. Manufacturing, all these economic indicators saying that things are not going very well. People are hurting. And I think that's the big difference here.
And that's one of the reasons a brand new Gallup poll that just come out, the #1 problem in the United States is unemployment. And here's some bad news for the White House. While they're trying to distract the American public from the disaster that is Obamacare, it looks like if the president gets his next wish, using his pen and his phone and by executive fiat, raising the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour, it could actually, rather than increase productivity in the country, that particular measure of increasing the minimum wage, according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, could cost up to 1 million Americans their jobs.
Douglas Holtz-Eakin, who used to run the CBO, weighed in.
The really striking part of the CBO report was this does nothing for poverty. It raises about $31 billion for low-wage workers. Only 19% of it goes to people in poverty. And there are 45 million Americans in poverty. 900,000 get helped. So this is a puny effort. And the White House is pumping it up as a big deal. Get by the elections at all costs. That's their strategy. They'll change the rules if they have to. They'll argue about the results of a CBO study, which is pretty common sense when you get right down to it. That's all election year politics, and we're going to see more, not less, in the months to come.
Doug went on to say he thinks it's a really bad strategy. He was surprised the White House came and started ripping on the CBO because that's a bad precedent. Now, when the CBO comes out with favorable numbers, you're going to say, wait a second, are you for the CBO or against them?
The White House liked half of it, the part that showed that 900,000 people would be above the poverty line. They like that number. Right. But the up to 1 million could lose their job, we don't like that number.
Right. The nonpartisan CBO report was only partially favorable in their eyes.
Right.
Right.
Well, we know who's
Unfortunately,
favorable.
It's
in
like,
ours.
Mom, I hope you like my A in English because I got a C in physics. Let's focus on the A.
Right. And those
Right.
numbers will, in time,
Right.
will prove to be challenging
Right.
as we move into the midterm elections. In the meantime, we're going to move over to Heather Nauer.